Hey everybody, I'm back. Dave Wayne here, Bicho Feo. And this is a little different. I know I talk about albums mostly, but I really like music. I don't really care what it's recorded on. It's music that I like. I used to write reviews on my little computer and send them into a website. And some things in my life got really complicated, and I had to stop writing, mostly involving playing music more. You only have so much time in life to have a job and a family and music and a house and blah, 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 blah. Some had to go, so I stopped writing reviews. However, the CDs kept coming in the mail, and I had a lot left from even before I quit. I couldn't keep up with the amount of material I was getting. And a lot of these CDs are really worthy, or at least they seemed interesting. And so I wanted to keep reviewing somehow. And because I make these rather ridiculous LP talking head videos, I thought, why don't I do the same thing for some of the CDs that have been sent to me recently and are worthy of discussion. I also find the occasional CD at the thrift store. And sometimes those are really surprisingly wonderful. And I like to mention those. So basically, in parallel with all this, I got a new car. And I know that isn't a big deal, but it did change my listening habits because I got really lazy and started listening on my iPhone. I would just plug my iPhone into the USB connector on my other car, and which my wife is now driving, and just listen to my iPhone and whatever was on that. And that was really lazy. My new car doesn't have that capability, although it's really nice. And it does have a nice CD player, but the CD player is in a weird location. It's not easy to get to. So what happens is I put a CD in there and it just goes around and around and around and around. And I have to wait till I reach a destination before I can change the CD. So I commute to and from work. I get most of my listening done on the road, commuting to and from work. And if I like a CD, what I found myself doing is just letting it spin around and around, just keep circulating through. If I really like a CD, it gets 3 or 4 plays. If I don't like it so much, 1 or 2. So that's sort of the grading scale I'm using, and I'll let you know what I think. Most of the CDs in this batch, they're from January 2018. This is what I was listening to in my car in January 2018. It got 3 spins. I just randomly picked stuff, and it was all astoundingly good for the most part. February hasn't been as successful, and I'll discuss that later. But January was a wonderful month for listening in the car and letting CDs circulate through the CD player. So here they are. What you're listening to in the background is one of my favorites. This thing got 3 plays, 3 plus, actually. This is Robin Taylor's new one, Taylor's Universe. It's called Almost Perfected. And what Robin started doing is he started re-recording compositions that he's written for earlier albums, and he's re-recording them in the way that he felt would do the compositions justice. He explains it all on the inside in a short liner note. There's Robin. Anyway, Robin Taylor, if you don't know, it does these very sort of dark, heavy, instrumental progressive rock CDs under the name Taylor's Universe. He puts them out on his own label, Marvel of Beauty. You can get them from him. I'll put the information where to get these CDs in the YouTube thingy beneath, the little text thing down there. Anyway, this is wonderful. I heard one of his other ones, and it made me wonder why he bothered. This one, you can really hear it. And if I had the time and the effort put into actually writing the review, I would go research and tell you which CDs the original compositions are on. I'm not going to do that here. Suffice it to say, this is a really excellent CD. It's one of the better, if not the best, progressive rock CDs I've heard in a few months. I like progressive rock still. Robin's music is all kind of similar. It's all kind of heavy, kind of dark. It has changes. It goes through different phases. It's never super hurried. And what he likes to do is work with hired gun soloists. The 2 here are John Sund and Thomas Ulstrup. Ulstrup plays amazing single line mini Moog solos in the kind of like Jan Hammer or Max Middleton. there's wonderful. I love his playing. He's quite prominent on this. There's a great saxophone player he's been working with named Jakob Meigind. He's also on this, plays kind of a soulful David Sanborn style sax. And Sund is a really wonderful guitar player, adept in jazz and metal and everything in between. So this is a real winner. 4 long interpretations of 4 of Robin's favorite compositions. You really can't go wrong. And as you can hear, it's just beautifully orchestrated. So that's a winner. 3 spins for Almost Perfected. Another really wonderful development is some of these small labels are just really going for it in terms of just supporting creativity. One label in particular is Orenda Records. I almost have never heard anything bad on the Orenda label. It's led by a musician, Daniel Rosenboom. Daniel Rosenboom is an amazing trumpet player. He's in a number of really interesting bands in his own right, and just is a musical visionary. I don't know how else to put it. And fortunately, this vision extends to the label and the supporting of other groups, one of which is these guys, and they're called Snow Nerds. And it's a saxophone, guitar, drums, bass quartet. The bass player is Anna Butters, and she's with Jeff Parker's band now. She's been touring and playing with Jeff Parker for a while. This is an excellent sort of neo jazz rock record. There's some really strange spoken word on this, and there's some sort of John Cage / art ensemble, weird noise, silence kind of things on it. But that's maybe 1 or 2 short pieces. Most of this record is this quirky, almost rock in opposition sounding jazz rock with really strong soloing on guitar and saxophone. Really like this quite a bit. This got 3 spins. It's very short though. It might have actually gotten 4 spins because it's only about half an hour long. It's really more like an EP than anything else. But Snow Nerds, the album is called Gup Life, and it's on the Orenda Records label. Highly recommended if you like quirky instrumentals. Here's another fantastic record on the Orenda record label, and it's the Evan Francis Group. It's called Imaginary Hero. And another quirky jazz record. The lineup here is 3 saxophones, bass, and drums, and female vocals. And the vocalist is Michelle Amador, and she's excellent. Beautiful, beautiful, strong voice, unaffected, no melismatic nonsense. Just beautiful, clear as a bell, almost conversational vocals. Almost like a latter-day Anita O'Day. I mean, I love the singing on this record. It's really fantastic. The compositions are complex, they're multi-level. They don't end up where they started out. A lot to like about this CD. And I've got to admit, for truth be told, full disclosure, I actually know one of the musicians on this record. Bassist Kurt Kottheimer does a remarkable job. Here, he's an amazing musician, plays Fender bass on this, which is another interesting aspect of this record. This beautiful, warm Fender bass, no slapping, no fretless nonsense, just beautiful, warm sound, almost sort of like an Andy Gonzalez kind of mode. He's not in your face with the bass playing, but it's really mobile. A lot of the tunes on this have sort of a Latin undercurrent, and Tim Bulkley on drums and Kurt Kottheimer handle that kind of thing really nicely. And the saxophones are incredible. Evan Francis is a remarkable soloist, as are the other guys, Kenny Brooks, Matt Nelson on tenor, alto, and flute. They mix it up and they play their butts off throughout. Really excellent CD on the Orenda label. It got played at least 3 times in the car. Here's another winner. This is a jazz guitar thing, the Yonder Trio. I got this to review. Never got around to writing about it, but I will tell you about it. Yanda is a supremely talented guitarist, very, very, very technically excellent. And he has a hard-edged, sort of plectrum-rich tone, kind of like a Grant Green sort of tone, but he does other stuff with it. Now, the inexplicable thing about this record is that it was recorded in the 80s and wasn't released until a year or 2 ago. It's a guitar, bass, drums trio with Drew Gress on bass, so you know it's going to be good because that guy is a mensch on the bass, and Phil Haynes on drums. It was recorded in the 80s and it released on Phil Haynes' label. What's it called? Corner Store Jazz. That's Phil Haynes' little indie label. This is really excellent. Phil Haynes, back in the 80s, was taken a lot from Jack DeJohnette. His drumming is very DeJohnette inspired. He really mixes it up nice with Gress, very dynamic rhythmic backing. Yanda just parries and thrusts with them. He's not a laid back guy at all. He's really in there rhythmically. The compositions, almost all originals, are excellent. It's hard hitting jazz guitar. Not real out, but not real in either. There is sort of a weak tune on here. It's like a bell theme thing. It's called My Bell, and it's sort of a mix-up of the Westminster chimes, you know, that, and If I Were a Bell, and then I don't know, I would have left that one off. I'm not really crazy about that piece. Even so, they light a fire under it and they get it going, but it's a little gimmicky for me. But the rest of the record's simply first rate, and I played it at least 3 times in the car on the way to work, to and from. Speaking of guitarists, this guy is utterly amazing, next level stuff. Hristov, H-R-I-S-T-O, Vitchev, V-I-T-C-H-E-V. Hristov Vitchev's Quartet. He's in a number of groups. This is my favorite group that he's in. This is a quartet, guitar, piano, acoustic piano, bass and drums. And if you're into the whole spiritual jazz, sort of Pharoah Sanders, Coltrane thing, and you like guitar, this might just be what the doctor ordered. This is definitely got some spiritual overtones to it. A little bit of it, some of it gets a little mawkish and sappy for me. But then Vitchev, I think he's from Bulgaria or Eastern Europe somewhere, or maybe he's an American that was born here and just has roots there. I don't know. I've never spoken to him. I haven't read up on him, but I've heard several of his CDs. And on this one, he really delves into the Eastern European thing on a couple of pieces. And that's where the music really succeeds the most. And he is an amazing soloist, simply amazing. World class. Could listen to him all day and he could play all day. Backing musicians are really good. They definitely take a back seat, but they're really good. They're better than capable, that's for sure. The piano player, Jasnam Daya Singh, is excellent. Bass and drums, Dan Robbins and Mike Shannon, respectively, also quite excellent. Both of those guys get around a little bit and play with different people, but highly recommended if you like the state-of-the-art in jazz guitar. Again, if you like Pat Metheny, you'll really like this. For some reason, this reminds me of Watercolors era, American Garage era Pat Metheny. It doesn't have that sort of Pat Metheny Middle America thing to it, but it's got kind of that sound. You can tell that influence is in there. But it's different. He's taken it in a different direction, and the playing is amazing. Another very impressive CD from another young player who I was not familiar with, unlike Christo Vitchev. This guy I never heard of before. In fact, I've never heard of any of these guys except for the piano player. It's a quartet, tenor sax, bass, drums, and piano. And the tenor saxophone player is the leader, Manny Ekzabal. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. Anyway, I got a lot of CDs like this to review, and usually I look at these things and I think, it's a bunch of guys who went to music school together, and they're going to record some really impressive, complicated tunes, and then get day gigs teaching at some university, and you'll never hear from them again. I don't know if that's the case with these guys. I think they did go to music school together, and these tunes are complicated, but there is a lot of soul on this record. I really like this. These guys really let it hang out on this one. Ekzabal is a tenor player mostly, and I think almost exclusively on this CD. This got 4 plays in the car. I really liked it. I actually put it on again after I cycled through some of these others because I really wanted to hear it again. An excellent player. He's got a real hard-edged sort of tone, kind of Booker Ervin, Ornette Cobb kind of something really dense and hard-edged about his tone. I really liked it. And when he gets up high, it's a little shrieky, but in sort of a Gatto Barbieri way. I just like that kind of tenor playing. It's edgy. He's not a mellow, smooth guy at all. Not knocking mellow, smooth sax. I do like it. But this guy's out for blood. The whole band's great. The drummer I've never heard of, David Chiverton, sounds a great deal like Tane Watts on drums. Takes a lot of the same kinds of chances, does a lot with metric modulation behind other soloists, but not in such a way that it loses its flow. Just excellent performances. The tunes are really good. They're not just impressive. They're well played. They're memorable. Lots of odd time signatures. Tal Cohen, the piano player, almost steals the show here. He's a wonderful player. His playing reminds me of Rand Blake or Frank Karlberg. Again, kind of a hard-edged, unforgiving, unsentimental player. I really like those kinds of guys. Not a pounding piano player, but definitely a hard-hitting dude, and has a lot of brilliant ideas. Loves naughty, dense harmonies. Just gets in there. His solo record's back there. I gotta listen to it again and give it a little feature here if I do this again, which I hope to. But Tal Cohen, that's a name to watch out for. T-A-L Cohen. Really fine, I think Israeli-born pianist, and featured here. And this whole CD is highly recommended. Short Notice, it's called. You can get it from Exabal's website. The last two are piano trios that I think one of them I got to review years ago, and I never really listened to it because it's an all standards thing, and I always think all standards, who wants to hear that? I'm tired of that. Don't give me all standards. But when I threw this on, it was so good. It was so freaking good that I listened to it 4 or 5 times. It's so inventive, and it's Jean-Michel Pilc, Francois Moutin, and Ari Hoenig. What a trio. These guys are all amazing players, and they really do new and interesting things with standards. Unbelievable, isn't it? Super creative, all standards program by 3 young masters at the height of their game. Hoenig's always amazing. He has a way of amazing you as a listener without playing a lot of notes and being all over the kit like some guys. Not to say that he can't do that or doesn't want to do that, but his restraint is admirable, and his playing is super tasty. Almost Joey Baron-esque at times, but he really has his own sound, and he can do melodies on the drums and stuff. But he's not a show-off at all. His playing always serves the music. Pilc is just next level technically. Again, like Hoenig, he doesn't throw it around though. No wasted chops on this. Moutin, one of the most virtuosic bass players on the scene today. I saw him play with Rudresh Mahantapa's band, and he almost stole the show. And that was the band with David Fuse-Chinsky. And you have to work pretty hard to keep up with those guys, and Dan Weiss. So Moutin is phenomenal. This is a great trio record. Came out in 2011. I think it just languished in my spare room where all the CDs go to go to sleep for a while. And I pulled it out to play, and it was the first thing I threw in the new car. And what a great CD. It's titled Threedom. It's from 2011. Check it out. Finally, this is the lone thrift store buy that I'm going to discuss this week. Just a brief word on this. Another piano trio. As you can see, it's on ECM Records. It's Colin Valan. Really fine, mellow, spacey, kind of slightly bizarre piano trio in the ECM tradition. I mean, it's like a classic ECM sound here. Some very spacious moments, some more dynamic moments as well. I like it. It got played a couple of times at least. I like the drumming on this. Samuel Rohrer plays with Peter Van Huffel, or used to. Really excellent young drummer. And the bassist is Patrice Moret, also does a lot of leads and stuff. There's a lot of discussion back and forth amongst these players on this CD. Again, if you like piano trios, you like ECM, this is can't miss. Thrift store find for a buck or two. Anyway, that's it for this month's install of what I listen to in the car, for the CD reviews for the Post-Literate Society. Who needs to read reviews when you can watch them on YouTube? Hope you enjoyed this. Leave comments below, and I'll be back with more, probably whether you like it or not. Bye.